So we have seen a lot of stories over the past few weeks about the cuts being made to the federal government by the Trump administration, jobs being eliminated. Many people asking why these cuts are necessary. Good people losing their jobs, popular programs that help people are being cut back or eliminated. Even though polling shows that most people want the federal government to spend less money, many of these cuts are unpopular. So I thought we'd talk about it now with Republican Congressman Andy Biggs, also a candidate for governor of Arizona. We'll talk about that in a minute. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Troy. Good to be with you.
So you're obviously feeling the pushbacks from some of these DOGE cuts. Overall, let's start overall. What do you think about everybody saying, hey, not my program, not my job?
Well, that happens all the time. We've got a $2.25 trillion per year structural deficit, $37 trillion national debt. Something has to happen. You can't continue in that way. So every program has a constituency. Every agency has a constituency. So when you try to right-size it and clean some of this up, there's going to be people that are mad or upset, and that's what we're seeing, I think, to some respect.
Does it concern you that so many people are being put out of work at a time where, I'm not saying our economy is fragile, but a lot of people with consumer confidence are saying, I'm not sure how the next 6 months are going to look?
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing a transition, that's what I would call it. And yes, it is hard to see people lose jobs. But don't forget that many of the people that are losing jobs, they were on probationary status. They could have lost those jobs at any time. And I'm not saying that doesn't hurt those individuals, because it does. At the same time, you have people who simply were given options. They were told, if you opt, we will give you retirement. We're going to give you pay for X amount of days, X months. So they made some choices. And the other thing I would tell you is you also had people who refused to come back to work. So you had a whole mixture here going on of trying to right-size this thing.
Department of Education looks like it's going away, essentially. How do you think that affects people in Arizona? I know a lot of people are saying, hey, why is the Department of Education going away?
Yeah, so it's going to affect us because I think what's going to happen is we're going to get to have more local control over government. Particularly education. But the other thing I would say is we're told that they're going to keep administering grants, they're going to keep administering student loans, because that's what they do.
So the money is going to continue to flow even if most of this department is gone?
That's my understanding. That's what we've been told. I think that's going to be the case. The other question, Troy, is what about all the other mandates that have been coming to the states, whether it's a Common Core mandate, a special ed mandate, whatever it is. What happens to those mandates? Well, quite frankly, unless Congress gets in and takes action, then those mandates actually remain in place, and we're going to have to figure out what happens there.
And so obviously there's something to figure out because Congress has to get rid of the agency totally, right? Has there been something brought up in Congress at all, discussions about voting to get rid of the Department of Education?
Yes, there has. And actually there's been discussion for literally years on how to extract the states from the Department of Education. There's no constitutional authority for it, and so people have been trying to eliminate it almost since its inception in 1979 under President Carter.
Let's talk about something else that I think it touches a nerve when you talk about it. Cuts to the VA hospital. You know, there's going to be, what we heard, cuts to music therapy and different types of therapies. Do you support those?
Well, I don't know the extent of those. Those haven't been published to us in Congress. They haven't been published to the world. Again, they're trying to get rid of duplicative and wasteful programs. Maybe that's the case there. We do know that according to Secretary Collins, there's massive amounts of waste and fraud in the VA administration. But what I've asked them to do is, if you're going to change some programs, what I'd like to see is let's go ahead and do HBOT, hyperbaric oxygen treatment therapies for people who have TBI, traumatic brain injuries, or PTSD, post-traumatic stress
So you're
disorder.
saying add some treatments?
Yeah, replace them for more effective treatments.
But a lot of the waste and fraud, at least that Elon Musk brought up, it's kind of been disproven by a lot of fact-checking that some of the people who are 200 years old getting Social Security, for instance. Yeah. What do you say about that?
Well, I don't believe that the fact-checkers have actually been right on the money either.
Really?
So when we started looking at Social Security, the defense for that was they said, well, if we didn't know the name or the birth date, we would just put something in. Well, let me tell you something. If you don't know the name or the birth date, how can you give an accurate vetting of that applicant, right? So you've got these issues that have to be resolved. And one thing I would say about what the DOGE effort has done, it has exposed that there is massive amounts of fraud and waste. Something, by the way, that one of the committees I sit on has actually been working on for years, and we've received very little help under the last administration.
Last question I'm going to ask you about DOGE is, you talk about a third rail in politics. You don't want to touch Medicare, right?
Right.
So we've been hearing about cuts to Medicare. Do you support cuts to Medicare? Do you believe there's places to cut there?
There won't be any cuts to Medicare.
No.
No cuts to Medicare. No cuts to Social Security benefits.
You're saying no for sure.
Yeah, the one that people are talking about is Medicaid. That's the one that they're proposing. I would call them reformations that would impose probably $1 trillion worth of savings.
And that's with the federal government helping out states for their own health care, correct?
Yeah. So you've got two Medicaid populations. You have the traditional Medicaid, which we call access here. Mm-hmm. Then you have the Medicaid expansion population, which is also an access population. The distinction is if you are in the Medicaid expansion population and you are an able-bodied worker, the federal government's going to repay the state 90% of what they pay. If you are disabled, we only repay 70%. So the question is, why are we paying more for the able-bodied worker who's choosing not to work over the disabled worker?
So there's been talk about actually requiring some work, correct?
Exactly. So work requirements. Between those just two things right there, evening those things out, it's about a $1.1 to $1.2 trillion savings.
All right. Let's talk. You had a town hall. You attended a town hall earlier this week that's causing some controversy. A lot of people saying that it wasn't really a town hall because Democrats weren't invited, and your explanation as to what happened there.
So the Maricopa County Republican Party was having their regular meeting. They invited some of us to speak. Sheriff Sheridan, State Senate President Warren Peterson, and myself to speak. We went and spoke. It was not ours. We didn't control it. We were guests.
So you did not call a town hall?
No. We do town halls. We do a regular teletown hall every month. And we have almost 10,000 people get on that call. If you're a constituent, you're going to get invited in to be on that call. But the reason we do it is because it's been so successful. People love it. We hear about it all the time. How grateful they are that we're doing the teletown hall. So
these are Democrats and Republicans that can get on this call.
Yeah, they
constituents, people who are in your district.
Yeah, and we take questions the whole thing. But one of the things is when I first got elected, the people that you see at these that are being paid to protest and cause trouble.
And you know that for a fact?
Oh yeah, we know that. Yeah, absolutely.
Who's paying them?
Yeah, the indivisible organization. You just follow it out, find out where their money is, and you can see it. But when we did this initially. We had so many death threats, not just for me, but for staff and for people in the audience. We actually had undercover police officers sitting in the audience to protect my wife, for instance. We had the whole back of the auditorium was filled with police that we had to pay for. They had to be there just to protect.
You're talking about an open town hall now,
Yes,
when
that's
everybody's
absolutely.
invited.
Yeah, an open town hall. And why do these people want a town hall? It's not because they want to have a discussion about questions and issues. It's because they want to disrupt. It's because they provide a threat. And we're going to release in the next day or so some of these people who are calling in, threatening not just me, but my staff and anybody else that they can.
Okay, send that list to me because I'd like to see it as well.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about governor. Sorry, we're getting there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, why did you decide you want to leave Washington? Are you tired of Washington? You miss Arizona. Why do you want to come back?
Well, a little of both. I mean, to be in Washington is to want to be back in Arizona, I can tell you that. But I love the state. I think we're headed in the wrong direction. I think this current governor needs to be replaced. I think we're a red state at heart. You look at, we picked up seats in the legislature. We control the Corporation Commission. But we don't have the top 3 seats, right? Governor, Secretary of State, and Attorney General. And for me, I look at it and I say I have a unique experience background. Served in the legislature, was the Senate president, worked with different governors, know how the executive branch works, know how the federal government works, still have relationships with President Trump's cohort and cabinet. I can make those calls. We can get something done. I'm planning on getting something done. I mean, we're talking border, we're talking education, we're talking election integrity. I mean, this governor just vetoed a pretty good election integrity bill. And her claim to fame is she's vetoed over 200 bills last year.
Yeah, it's been definitely contentious between her and the Republican legislature for sure. All right, well, good luck to you going forward.
Thanks
for coming on, Congressman.
Thanks, Troy.
I appreciate it. And you can watch this entire interview on 12 Plus. When you get to the app, just go to the Troy Hayden Reports tab. You can download it on your TV right now and watch it for free. The 12 Plus app is available on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV devices.